Those are called volume spacers, if you didn't already know. And what they do is adjust, well, quite simply, actually, they just adjust the volume inside your air spring. So adding more spacers reduces the amount of volume in your air spring. What does that mean though? What that means is you ramp up your progression faster. So it adds progressiveness to your fork. The reason for that is if you think of a large amount of area and you fill it with, let's go with like my PSI, I go about 85 PSI on the fork. So that 85 PSI is when the fork's all the way up. So as that volume reduces, as your spring goes through its travel, that is the rate of progression, right? So as you reduce, your PSI goes up, resistance goes up. That's why air forks and air shocks are progressive. Now you can adjust that with volume spacers or volume reducers. And so by adding a volume reducer, you make that ramp up quicker. So what you do is you reduce that initial volume, but you start at the same PSI. So I'd start at 85 PSI, even with more volume spacers. But because we're starting with a smaller volume, that ramp up is gonna come in quicker. Now I was just running 3 of those volume reducers, and I did that in Colorado when I was racing downhill on my little 27.5 all mountain bike, and I was racing some enduro races, and I figured I needed it. And you know, my fork felt fine, but I was running it really soft. And recently I upped the pressure to run it where it should be. I was running it too soft. And I upped the pressure to where it should be. Fork feels phenomenal on the trail. But I noticed I just rode a double black and there were some compressions that should have not bottomed out my fork, but it was mistakes. You know, I came off, I rolled some things that should have been drops, banged the bottom bracket, was only saved by the travel and should have come closer to bottoming out, though I'm glad I didn't. But I noticed on that rough of a trail and worst case scenario of rolling drops and making mistakes, this is how much suspension I used. And so I got thinking, I'm like, she's ramping up too quickly. So I removed a volume spacer. I'm gonna try this out. Am I gonna like it? I don't know. Maybe I really want like 2.5. RockShox is kind of funny. Their volume reducers are quite large. And yeah, you can only add or remove them unless you get out a Dremel maybe and cut 1.5. But we're gonna go back to 2. That's what I used to ride on this bike. And we'll see how it is. I guess I'll report back on that. But yeah, that's what volume spacers do.